Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam, Doktor.
Good morning. Right, inshallah we will
Morning,
continue
madam.
with our lecture. Okay. Let us start by making our individual prayer. Okay, my dear students, I have assigned two assignments. The first one is reading assignment for chapter 1. And the second one is the tutorial for chapter 1, which you can find on the Connect platform, right? The online Connect platform by Mike Grohill. So the due date is the next week on Monday. So today, inshallah, we are going to continue with our second chapter. Our second chapter is about international bond market. Before we proceed, do you have question with regards to chapter 1? Any question? Chapter 1, International Banking and Money Market. All right, no question so far. Okay, so this is our chapter 2. So for your information, chapter 2, all the notes are taken from our textbook. If I'm not mistaken, our textbook. Who's the writer of that textbook? Yeah, I think it's Ian. By Mike Grohill, yeah. I also have uploaded the notes from Mike Grohill, right? So what we have today is my notes, my own notes. So I believe that you can also prepare your own notes, yeah, for each chapter. All right, so this is what we're going to explore. As for today, we are talking about international bond market. And these are our planning, the lesson that we are going to cover from this chapter. The first one is the definition, what is bonds? And we have international bonds and international bond market segment, types of international bonds instruments. And then we have international bonds market credit ratings. And finally is Eurobond market structure. So bond by definition, on the layman's term, bond is actually a financial paper issued by the deficit unit. And this paper will be sold to the investor or to the surplus unit. Why the deficit unit issue this paper? This is an alternative in getting capital or in getting borrowing facility other than banks. All banks, international banks, they also provide these borrowing facilities, financing facilities, but some of these companies, they prefer to issue papers, financial papers, right? As compared to applying loan from the international financial institutions. They have some reasons for that. One of the reasons is because of the interest rate charged by the financial institutions, commonly a little bit higher as compared with the what we call as the interest that the deficit unit has to pay to the surplus unit, right? So bond can be divided into several categories. The first and the most basic type of bond is the domestic bond. This is when the deficit unit issue bond in its home country, and that bonds is sold within the home country. That one is the what we call as the most basic type of bonds, the domestic bond, right? Issued by a company located in one particular home country, and that that bonds or financial paper is to be sold in that particular market. Home country, the home country of the issuer or the home country of the deficit unit. So that one is domestic bond. But from the international business context, we will go beyond that. multinational corporations, when they are having their operation in Malaysia, for example, can they issue bonds in our market? Yes, they can issue bonds in our market, no problem, because this is the one of the innovation in globalization. So to have that kind of issue, right? So that is no longer known as the domestic bond, right? So we have different type of bonds there, okay, issued by foreign companies in a host country, all right, or issued by a foreign company in a foreign location, right, denominated in that particular country's currency. We have, for instance, IBM issued a bond in Malaysia, and that bond will be sold within our market and denominated in ringgit Malaysia. So that is not a domestic bond, because domestic bond is when the bond is issued by Malaysian company denominated in RM, and that bond will be sold within our country, within the home country of the issuer. So that one is the domestic bond. So in the case of IBM, IBM is a foreign company. So when this company issue bonds in our market denominated in ringgit Malaysia, so this is a kind of foreign bond, kind of international bond. So we are going to look into several types of international bonds. So for example, we have foreign bond, we have euro bond, and we have global bond, right? Okay, so we still refer to this one here. We are talking about the fund flow of money or fund flow mechanism in a particular economy, right? So we have the supplier of funds or the surplus unit, and then we have the demanders of funds or deficit unit. So the deficit unit is also known as borrower. They are the borrower. They are the issuer of paper, right? If you're talking about financial paper, so the deficit units are the one who issue the paper, the seller of the paper. Supplier of funds is the surplus unit. They are also known as investors. They're also known as funders, right? So they are also known as lenders. They provide money to the market. Because they have surplus of money in the account, and they will keep the money in the banking account, or they will use their cash to purchase the papers issued by the deficit unit. So we have two types of intermediaries. The first one is the financial institutions or financial intermediaries, consists of banks, insurance company, right? And the second one is the financial markets, which consists of the markets that issue long-term paper and the markets that issue short-term papers, right? So now we are talking about bonds. Bond is under capital market. Financial market specifically under capital market, because this is the bond is categorized as long-term paper, right? Long-term paper. Money market is for short-term maturity, papers with short-term maturity, but bonds, it can be up to 30 years. So that's why it is categorized under capital market, right? And this capital market is a component of financial market, right? So this illustration is very important, right? The flow mechanism is very important here. You have to remember all these things. Yeah, you need to remember. Okay, the relationship between the deficit unit and what is the relationship between the surplus unit. So if you look into this flow, most of the time you can see the surplus unit and the deficit unit, they are actually connected by the intermediaries or financial market, right? Is it possible to for these two groups to have a direct relationship, which the supplier, right? The demander of funds can target a specific supplier in order to give them some amount of money in order for example, for the future expansion of the business. Is it possible without involving the financial institution or financial intermediaries? Can the demander of funds just appoint, or demand certain company to purchase their bonds? Is it possible to do that? Can the supplier of funds just target a specific deficit unit which they wish to purchase whatever financial instrument issued by the deficit unit? Is it possible to do that without the involvement of financial institution and financial market? What do you think?
Not possible. I think that's possible.
Possible. How? Do you have any experience? Do you have any information or example? Is it possible? Someone mentioned it is actually a possible arrangement. Can you please explain? Is it possible?
Is it because it is like the company issue itself the bond,
Mm-hmm.
so the supplier can tak tahulah. Yeah, yeah. Like that lah. I don't know,
Good
try to explain. Tapi bukan sebab bond ni bukan ke dia issue diri dia sendiri, apa ni, company tu issue dia punya bond sendiri. So orang boleh tak tahulah saya nak explain. Kalau tak saya bunyi lain.
But that is a possible arrangement, Hairul. Do you think that is a possible arrangement?
Yes.
Possible, but you do not know to explain.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Muhairul. How about Adeline? What do you think, Adeline? Adeline Iliana. Is it possible if, let's say, the deficit unit requires 1 million ringgit, Malaysia, and that deficit unit target a specific supplier of funds or surplus unit to purchase its bond? Is it possible, Adeline? Adeline Iliana, are you with us? Adeline Iliana, are you with us? Oh, Adeline, are you with us? If you are with us and your Teams is not functioning well or you have the coverage problem, can you please text us? Write your situation on the chat. Adeline Iliana. Ini tak ada tapi masuk ke? Adeline Iliana. Adeline Iliana, are you with us?
Madam, sorry, tadi saya pergi toilet.
Okay. So what do you think, Adeline Iliana? Can the demander of funds, the deficit unit, specifically target a specific or a particular surplus unit to purchase their bonds?
Can you repeat it again, madam?
Is it possible for the deficit unit to target a specific surplus unit to purchase their bond without going through the financial institutions and financial markets, without going through any of this intermediary?
I think maybe they can.
Okay. Do you have any explanation for that?
Not sure.
Not sure. Okay, Muhammad Haziq, what do you think, Muhammad Haziq?
Sorry.
Yeah, I have repeated my question a few times. So what do you think? The same set of question.
Hmm. I'm not sure.
What is the thing that you are not sure, Muhammad Aziz?
Um,
Apa yang you tak pasti tu?
sorry, I don't understand the question. Sorry.
We have the deficit unit who demand for 1 million ringgit Malaysia. Is it possible for the deficit unit to target a specific surplus unit to purchase that 1 million ringgit Malaysia of bonds? The deficit unit specifically target a specific surplus unit to purchase their bonds. Is it possible to do that?
The deficit unit. Wait, hold on. The deficit unit. Try to purchase the surplus unit. Try to target the surplus unit by 1 million.
Yeah. Is it possible?
Deficit unit demand of the. I don't. Maybe not because they are deficit units.
Who is actually deficit unit? Can you please define who is a deficit unit here?
If it's by the figure just now, it's the demander of the funds.
Mhm.
So it's supposedly supply of the funds is the surplus unit, right? Demander of the funds. All deficit units, surplus units, supply of the funds.
Is it the government?
Government?
Because bond is issued by government, right?
It can be by government as well as by corporations.
Oh, I see.
Mhm. Deficit unit can be corporation, it can be also government, right? Deficit unit. So my question is it possible if the deficit unit target a specific surplus unit to purchase the bonds that the deficit unit issued? Some say yes, some say no. Is it possible to have that arrangement? It is possible. It is possible. As the issuer of financial paper, we have right to target a specific surplus unit to purchase our financial paper. It is possible to do that. And it is the right of the supplier whether the supplier will accept or reject that invitation. All right. But normally, if you have this kind of arrangement, definitely it is based on trust. When you trust the supplier of funds, the surplus unit trusts the deficit unit, and the deficit unit trusts the surplus unit. So you can have this kind of arrangement. We call this arrangement as private placement arrangement. Private placement arrangement, meaning to say that 1 million ringgit Malaysia of bonds will be bought by a specific target. All right, and the demander of funds, the deficit units, they have to pay return to the surplus unit. You're talking about bonds, right? So especially if, because you are free to actually set what is the return to be paid to the surplus unit. Of course, you have to listen to the investment banker, but if the supplier agreed, if let's say the return to be paid is about 1%, very low, 1%. So investment banker, they will just comply with that. It will never we will never refer to whatever interest issued by the central bank in determining how much is the return to be paid to the surplus unit, right? The determination of rate of return, it can be from the negotiation process involving the deficit unit, the surplus unit, and the investment banker. Remember, in issuing any kind of paper, we still need investment banker, right? But if we are talking about private placement, meaning to say you just want to target a specific company to purchase your bonds, all right, can we just neglect the role of investment banker? We still need this investment banker to keep the record, all right, of the issuance. Okay, but in terms of the interest, so we can have a good negotiation between these two parties, the surplus unit and the deficit unit, in determining how much is the percentage of return to be given to the surplus unit. So it is possible to target a specific surplus unit to purchase our share. Let's say we have a company, sorry, not share, our bonds. Let's say we have a company and we need 1 million ringgit Malaysia. We wish to sell these shares, let's say to Petronas, for example. So we can target Petronas as our buyer of the bonds. It is possible to do that, all right? Other alternative is the bonds will be sold to the public, unknown investors. It will be sold to the open market. That is another arrangement, right? So meaning to say you have two alternatives. In issuing bonds, you can sell the bonds to the open public, or number two, you can also sell the bond to a specific target or a specific investor, right? Are we okay?
Yes, madam.
All right. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Next slide. These are the learning objectives to understand what is bond and to know the characteristic of bonds. Bonds, by definition, it is a long-term debt instrument, right? Purchasing this paper, bond paper, won't guarantee any percentage of ownership or stake in the deficit units company or in the issuance company. Bonds is a debt instrument. This one is alternative of debt issued by bank. So you have alternative. If you are not so interested to apply for a loan from financial institutions, so the second alternative is to issue bonds. Bonds is under capital market. It is not under financial institution and intermediaries. It is under capital market. So the keyword is long-term debt instrument. Long-term debt instrument. It is a debt. So if we define it as a debt, meaning to say the deficit unit must pay back whatever principal borrowed from the investor or from the surplus unit upon maturity of the bonds. Okay. And the borrower agrees to make payment of interest and principal on specific dates to the holder of the bond. All right. So meaning to say the principal, let's say, is 1 million ringgit Malaysia. That is the principal issued by the deficit unit. Maturity is 10 years. Interest is 1%. So from year 1 until year 10, the deficit unit must pay 1% of interest to the purchaser or to the can you listen? Can you hear me?
You're lagging just now.
Boleh dengar tak?
Now, yes.
Boleh, madam.
Boleh? Nak saya ulang ke? Are we okay with the definition of bond?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
Tapi,
Okay, so that one is a debt. That means when we have debt, we know the amount of money that we borrowed from the market, from the surplus unit, right? So debt from a bank, so we borrow the money from a bank. But when we have bonds, so meaning to say we are actually having that debt paper and we owe the debt market, surplus unit in the debt market. We owe them. We know how much is the principal and we know how much is the interest. So year 1 until year 10, the deficit unit must pay the interest 1% out of 1 million ringgit Malaysia to be paid, right? From year 1 to year 10. And during the maturity, right? At the maturity date of year 10, the deficit unit must return back 1 million ringgit Malaysia. Itu adalah penyiksaan orang yang berhutang. Bila kita berhutang, every year we have to pay the return or the interest, yeah. That return is from the perspective of the surplus unit, but from our perspective, that is actually the interest that has to be paid. Interest is an expenses from the perspective of the deficit unit. So this is actually, I always say, a torture, you know. If we have a debt, so we have to serve the debt until the maturity. We are not only serving for the principal, but we are also serving for the interest. Alright. Tapi kita sukalah kan, kalau tak ada hutang, kita tak boleh nak beli rumah, kita tak boleh nak beli kereta kan. Then businesses, when we're talking about businesses, if they do not owe any money, so they cannot expand their businesses. I think you are the future leader of this country. What you can do, all right? I'm not encouraging you to kill the financial institution. No, I am encouraging you to come up with an alternative institution, right? Kalau pinjam untuk kereta, pinjam untuk rumah tu mungkin terpaksa. But you have to remember, in our country, some of these young people, you know, they actually borrow for their wedding, for their marriage, right? So I don't think that is a good arrangement, right? Yeah, it's I know it's good for these people to actually have their marriage early. It's good. Yeah, I agree. But obtaining loan for that marriage is not recommended. All right. So as an alternative for this, you as the future leader, I think you have to establish this Waqf institution. Waqf institution, all right? We do have this Waqf institution, but we have to strengthen the function of Waqf institution, right? So when we have this Waqf in our economy, Waqf is not a debt. It is the contribution collected by the Muslim, all right? And that contribution can be used in order to, for example, to help people who wish to get married, for example, or for the education, right? For to beautify the countries, for example, not only to beautify the masjid, you know, for the countries as well. Nak cantikkan rumah pula, nak cantikkan jalan, lampu jalan, semua boleh, right? Waqf institution. So the most successful Waqf institution, you can actually refer to the Azhar University. Azhar University, right? The establishment until today, the establishment and the operation is actually from the Waqf institution. So if you go to Turkey, for instance, right? Turkey is one of, I mean, you can see how actually they really maintain in terms of the garden, you know, in the city. So they use the work of money in order to maintain the beauty of the city. They also use the money for education. They also use the money for the masjid as well, right? So you are the future leader. I think you have to look into this alternative as well, right? Because there are some purposes in life which you should avoid yourself from getting a debt, especially if you have just started to, you know, get married. So if you start with loan and you have to commit, your commitment is for example, 10 years. So you have to remember when you get married, you have other commitments. So financial problem is one of the reasons why our young couples, you know, get divorced early, right? So this is actually my suggestion. I really hope you, as a future leader, you can take in Waqf institution into the consideration. And of course, if we have this Waqf institution, we have a lot of money in this Waqf institutions, we do not have to apply for study loan, right? Now we have to apply for loan in order to further our study. But if we do have this Waqf institution, if we, I mean, maybe we cannot get full amount of study fees, but at least half of it, right? So it's good to strengthen our wakaf institution. Okay. Kita selalu kata wakaf buat masjid, tak. It's also including the education purpose as well. All right. So it's good to have that. So just imagine if UITM, we do have this wakaf institution, UITM wakaf institution. So just imagine how much we can invest in order to improve our classroom, the technology, everything, you know, we can improve the facilities. All right. So go back to here. Now we are talking about bonds because this is, yeah, one of the instruments where the surplus unit can actually raise money. That is from the bonds. Even although we are talking about the win-win situation where the deficit unit will get the principal, the required principal, but you have to remember the deficit unit have to pay the interest until the maturity. Right? And the surplus unit definitely, yeah, they will enjoy in terms of the interest. But the risks are there. The risks are there. Okay. Okay, bonds are capital market instrument. As I mentioned, it is under capital market. Capital market is under financial market. And bonds are normally issued by the deficit unit such as corporation or government to raise new capital. Right? It is not only meant for the government, but also by corporation. Multinational corporations, they normally issue bonds. They go for Euro bonds or foreign bonds or global bonds in financing their future expansion. These are the characteristics of bond. I keep on mentioning about, for instance, the par value, the capital. If it is 1 million, so that is the par value, the amount of money needed by the deficit unit. And then the interest, as I mentioned, this is the amount of money that must be paid to the surplus unit. And interest is cost from the perspective of the deficit unit. And number 3 is the maturity date. This is the date when the deficit unit must pay all of the principal borrowed to the surplus unit. If it is 3 billion US dollar, so upon maturity, that 3 billion US dollar must be paid to the surplus unit. So this is the world where we are living now, right? The richer becoming more richer, right? The poor becoming poorer, right? So because of these instruments, you know, so you're talking about loan. We need that money, we borrow, and at the same time, you have to commit with the interest. So now you're talking, for example, in our economy, we have T20, M40, and and what B40. All right, B40, B40, M40, and T20. And normally people say this, yeah, on the social media, they mention that T20 is have group, right? Have dia guna bahasa tu. Saya pun tak tahu apa have tu. One more, they use kayangan, right? Kayangan versus marhain, right? So from my perspective, yeah, as long as you borrow money from the financial institution as individual, you're not T20, right? So whatever the definition that they have, from my perspective, you're talking about my individual perspective. If you still borrow money to purchase your car, you borrow money to purchase your house, you're not kayangan, you're not have, all right? You're just common people. Okay, if you are free from that, you purchase you have no debt, right? You are free from debt. You enjoy that freedom of any kind of debt. So you are you are kayangan. All right? Sebab saya tak silap saya ada dalam hadis bila kita ni berhutang, kita tidur kita tak tenang. Saya tak ingatlah hadis ke ada ulama yang bercakap begitu. Mungkin ulama lah dia kata begitu. Tapi memang betul kan, bila kita hutang, contoh dia, you owe your for your study, you have your study loan. So you keep on thinking, how are you going to pay back the loan? Right? You haven't worked yet, but you have that study loan. So you keep on thinking, nak kerja kat mana lepas ni? Macam mana nak bayar hutang lepas ni? Macam mana nak hidup lepas ni? Ada hutang, belum apa pun dah ada hutang. So you have that kind of burden, right? So that's why I really encourage you to relook into the Waqf institution and strengthen this institution, right? Okay, right. So we have the buyer or the investor of bonds. These are the investor of bonds, yeah, or the buyer of bonds. The issuers, they are governments as well as corporations. So corporation can be banks, can be manufacturing companies, investment companies. So these are all the issuers. How about the buyers? The buyers of bonds sama juga lah. We're talking about corporation as well as governments. The buyer of bonds, right? Government as well as corporations. Issuers and the surplus unit. We are talking about corporation and government. Corporation and government can be the deficit unit. Corporation and government, they can also be as the surplus unit. So this is just a simple illustration of bonds. We have the principle of 1 million US dollar. Coupon rate, remember characteristic of bond, we have three: principal or face value, and then the interest or coupon rate, and then the maturity. So we have principal here, coupon rate is 10% to be paid annually. And this coupon payment, you have to calculate 10% out of 1 million US dollar. That one is equal to 100,000 US dollar. So this 100,000 US dollar must be paid by the deficit unit to the surplus unit every year from year 1 until year 5. So you can read here, right? It is issued by the deficit unit or the borrower, right? The amount is 1 million US dollar. Time period, year 0, right? That one is year 0. Year 1, the deficit unit must pay 100,000 US dollar. Year 2, 100,000 US dollar. Year 3, 100,000 US dollar. Year 4, 100,000 US dollar. Year 5, 100,000 US dollar. Upon maturity, the deficit unit must pay back to the lender or the surplus unit 1 million US dollar of principal. That is bond. And this interest can be paid annually or semi-annually. It depends on the negotiation. Remember, the determination of the coupon rate or interest is actually based on the negotiation. Same goes to the payment of interest. And same goes to the maturity. It is up to the negotiation between the issuer and the surplus unit, as well as it also can involve the investment banker. Are we okay so far?
Okay, madam.
Akmal, okay?
Madam.
Boleh ada soalan tak, Haziq?
Okey, doktor.
Saya nak
Okay.
tanya.
Ada soalan? Yes.
So, adakah bond ni allowed in Islam?
Ada dalam Islam kita panggil sukuk. Good question. Dalam Islam kita tak panggil bonds. We do have a specific instrument. We call that instrument as sukuk. Nanti kita tengok. Kita akan tengok satu platform which you can actually refer to the bonds, the types of bonds, including sukuk. All right, and sukuk is not only in our country; it is internationally recognized. All right, sukuk. S-U-K-U-K, sukuk. Nabiha, okay?
Okay, madam.
All right. Okay. Next one. Next slide. Slide ni boleh nampak jelas ke macam mana? Kecil ke? Okay ke?
Nampak, madam?
Jelas Mairul?
Kalau saya jelas je.
Okay. Right. Saya takut tak jelas. Okay. The second one. Lesson number 2. We will look into the international bonds. Right? International bonds. And then we will differentiate between foreign bonds and Euro bonds and global bonds actually. Okay. We have foreign bonds, Euro bonds, and global bonds. Right. So international bonds, as a domestic bond just now, we're talking about the issuer. If the issuer or the deficit unit is located in its home country, and the bonds will be denominated in that particular home country's currency, and it will be sold within that particular country. All right. So everything is domestic. That's why it is known as domestic bond, right? So this is international bond. By definition, international bond is a debt instrument. So we are talking about debt instrument. It's still in a debt instrument, domestic or international or global, whatever. It is a debt instrument, long-term debt instrument that is issued in a country by a foreign entity or foreign deficit. So can you please give example of a foreign entity in Malaysia? Foreign company in Malaysia. Any example of foreign entity in Malaysia?
HSBC.
HSBC. Other than that, Azrizal. Multinational corporation in Malaysia.
Citibank.
Citibank. Nabiha. Multinational corporation in Malaysia.
McDonald.
McDonald. Adlim. MNC in Malaysia.
Starbucks.
Muhammad Haziq. MNC in Malaysia.
Shell.
Okay. Siti Zahara. MNC in Malaysia.
Apple.
Apple. All right. So if these companies, these are all foreign entities or foreign deficit, if they issue bonds in our country and that bond is denominated in RM, so that bond is known as international bond. If Apple issue $1 million, 1 million ringgit, 1 million ringgit, yeah, because that will be denominated in our currency, right? Apple issue 1 million ringgit Malaysia in Malaysia, so that bond is known as international bonds because it involves foreign entity. Shall issue 10 million ringgit Malaysia of bonds in our market, in the Malaysian bond market. So that bond is known as international bond. All right. By definition, that one is international bonds. All right, because that involves foreign entity. But if you have Proton issue 1 million ringgit Malaysia in the Malaysian bond market, that is a domestic bond because that doesn't involve any foreign entity. But once the issuer is foreign entity, that is international bond. All right. Second point. Oh, so this is the definition. An international bond is denominated in the currency of the country that the bond is issued. Right? Apple issue bond in RM. Right? Siapa lagi? Starbucks. Semua ni company yang kita boycott kan. Starbucks issue bond denominated in RM in our country. That one is international bond. Okay, lagi siapa tadi? McDonald issue 50 million of bonds in the Malaysian bond market. So that one is international bonds. Are we clear what is international bonds?
Yes, madam.
All
Yes,
right. So
madam.
okay, good. Alhamdulillah. So we have this example, very simple example. A Japanese company issues a US dollar bonds in the US bond market. So that is the example. So you just take that example just now. You have Apple issue 1 million ringgit Malaysia in the Malaysian bond market. All right. So that one is international bond. We have the second types of bond. This is known as Euro bond. Euro bond ada nama lain. Ada yang panggil external bonds. Right? Kita ada dua Kita ada dua nama untuk Eurobonds, but the common terminology is Eurobond. But if you read other papers that mention about external bond, that is actually referring to Eurobond. Eurobond, right? External bond is a Eurobond. So what is actually Eurobond? What is the difference between Eurobond and international bond? So Eurobond, again, is a debt instrument. Understood? This is long-term debt instrument. Long-term debt instrument. Bond is automatically long-term, regardless of whether it is domestic or international or Euro, long-term debt instrument that is denominated in a currency other than the home currency of the country or market in which it is issued. A bit complicated for the definition here, right? Eurobond is a debt instrument that is denominated in a currency other than the home currency of the country or market in which it is issued. Siapa faham ayat ni? Okay, let's say we have Proton. Proton, this is just for the illustration, yeah? This is just for the illustration. Proton issue Eurobond. Before that, if Proton issue international bond, what is going to be the situation? What is going to be the illustration? Proton issue international bond. Can you please illustrate? Muhammad Alif.
a long-term debt instrument that denominated in currency, home country currency of the country or market in which it's issued.
No. Can you please just give an illustration if Proton issue international bond?
International bond.
Yes.
Mm.
Before we go to
Uh,
Euro bonds.
They use home country currency.
Home country's currency?
Mm.
Meaning to say, what is the home country currency? Can you please be specific?
They're using RM.
So Proton issue bonds denominated in RM in which market?
International market. Malaysia.
In Malaysia. That one is international bond.
Yeah. Ini international market.
International?
market. Mm.
International market? Can you please repeat?
Denominated in home country currency in Malaysia market. Sorry.
All right. Proton issue bond denominated in RM within Malaysia. That one is international bond.
I think so.
Okay. Adrina, do you agree? International bond. Yeah, Adrina, international bond.
International bond.
Can you please illustrate if Proton issue international bond? What will be the situation? If Proton issue international bond, what will be the situation?
Proton issue bond to Singapore.
Denominated in denominated in Adrina? Yes, Adrina. We are waiting.
In currency host country.
Okay, can you please just give an illustration? Give us the illustration. What is the currency? Where is the country? Yeah.
Dominated in Singapore. Use Singapore dollar.
Okay. Can you please give us the full sentence so that we can understand?
Dominated in Singapore. Using Singapore dollar.
Denominated in Singapore dollar and issued in which bond
Singapore
market?
dollar.
Singapore bond market. All right. Proton issue
Proton
bond.
issue in Singapore.
Yeah.
Issue bond in Singapore. So currency Singapore. So dia ikut currency Singapore.
Denominated in Sing dollar. All right. So that is international bond. Can you get the explanation from Adrina just now? The rest of you?
Yes, madam.
International bond. Alright. Nampak International bond. So Proton issue bonds denominated in Sing dollar, and that issue occurred in the Singapore bond market. That is international bond. While we have the explanation from Alif, Proton issue bonds denominated in RM, and the issue takes place within the Malaysian bond market. That is a domestic bond, right? But the moment Proton issue bonds in Singapore, denominated in Sing dollar, all right? So that one is international bond. Other example, Proton issue bonds in Indonesia, all right? And that bond is denominated in rupiah, Indonesian rupiah. We'll target the surplus unit in the Indonesia bonds market. That is international bonds. Okay, are we okay? Dapat tak tu?
Dapat.
Ada soalan tak? Okay, sebab sekarang kita nak pergi Eurobond ni. Eurobond dia dah pelik sikit. Eurobond. When we read that instrument denominated in a currency other than the home country currency, home currency of the country or market in which it is issued. So you have to cater two elements here. It is not denominated in the home currency of the issuer. Okay, that is number one. It is not denominated in the home currency of the issuer. For example, Proton, it won't be denominated in RM. Right? Betul lah kan? By logic, kalau you nak keluar negara, dah tentulah dah tak melibatkan duit kita. Alright? That will denominated in other than RM. If it is by Apple, it will be denominated in other than dollar. Right? If you're talking about Lotus, it will not be denominated in euro or pound sterling, for example. Okay? So you have to understand that is the first condition, right? The second condition, it will not be denominated in the market in which it is issued, in the currency of the market in which it is issued. Okay, let's say Proton. For Eurobond, Proton needs to identify a location in order to issue the bonds. Kita tak boleh dah issue bonds tu dekat atas langit ke apa. Tidak. You have to identify the location. Right? You have to identify where will you issue the bonds. Because you're talking about market. The market, you were talking about where are you going to issue the bond. If you have domestic bond, it will be issued by Proton. It will be issued in Malaysia. If it is an international bond, denominated in Sing dollar, and that will be issued in Singapore. Same goes to Eurobond. You have to determine where is the location for the issue, right? So it will not be denominated in the location where the company issue the bonds. Proton, that will not be denominated in RM. So if the issuance is in the, let's say, United States of America, in New York, for example, so that bond won't be denominated in US dollar. Do you understand? So you have to meet these two criteria for Eurobond. It will not be denominated in the home currency of the issuer. And the second one, it won't be denominated in the currency of the market or the avenue where the bond is issued. Okay, Malaysia, we have Proton. Kita guna Proton lah. So we have Proton, wish to issue Eurobonds. Definitely it won't be denominated in RM. And if the place of issue is in in New York, so that Eurobond will not be denominated in US dollar. If Proton wish to issue in Australia, so that bond would be denominated in Australian dollar. It will be denominated in US dollar or in euro, right? Or in other currencies than Australian dollar. In common, they use US dollar. Kebanyakannya guna US dollar in euro bonds. And they also use the most popular currency. Why can't we use RM? Kenapa kita tak boleh guna RM? Because popularity, credit ratings is important, right? The most demanded currency is also important. If you issue in RM, who's going to purchase bonds denominated in RM? But if you issue in US dollar or you issue in euro, there will be people, there will be investors, public investor who will purchase the bonds because of the denomination. You're talking about international currency, internationally accepted currency. If it is denominated in rupiah, for example, or denominated in baht, for example, so it's quite hard to penetrate international investors because of the recognition. The question of recognition is that the recognition of the currencies which the bond is denominated in. It's very important. So that's why majority of in the bond market, they are actually denominated in US dollar. Are we okay with the definition?
Okay, Doktor.
All right.
Yes, madam.
All right. So we have this example. But you have to remember, if Proton issue shares in the States of America, you have to observe all the regulations, all the rules, all the requirements, you know. I mean, you're talking about the investment bankers. You are dealing with investment bankers. You are dealing with people in different cultures. So you have to comply to all differences, right? As well as the rules and regulation. Meaning to say, the moment all companies get involved in international business activities, regardless about manufacturing, marketing, or distribution activity, or after-sales service activity, or you are getting loans, you have to understand there will be a lot of frictions. There will be a lot of differences involving cultures, involving rules and regulation, involving the economic landscape. So same goes to Eurobonds issuer here, Eurobond issuance here. It's very important to understand that. You need to comply to whatever rules and regulation outlined by the government in that particular country. Right? We have this example. Ini Eurobond yang pertama. 1963. Semua tak ada lagi. Kita tak ada lagi. Dia orang dah keluarkan Eurobond. Right? So first Eurobond was issued in 1963. Dah berapa tahun tu? 2024, 1963. Berapa tahun tu? $50 tahun ada tak? Ada kan? 50 tahun. 60. Lama dah. Dia orang dah keluarkan dah. Right? So they are talking about innovation. So innovation is not only about product and service innovation. It's also about this financial innovation. Right? So they issue Eurobond in 1963 by Autostrade, the company that ran Italy's national railroads. So this is the borrower or the deficit unit. They are the issuer of the financial paper, Autostrade. Alright, dia punya base kat mana? Italy. First Eurobond. That bond was denominated in dollar. $15 million. Alright, as I mentioned, Italy dia punya currency apa? Tahun 1963, bukan sekarang ni. Sekarang ni boleh cakap lah euro. 1693 apa? 1963. Currency dia orang apa?
Lira.
Betul, lira. So lira, Italy should be in lira, right? But because this one is Eurobond, so the bond is denominated not in lira. in other than lira. That is the first criteria. Okay, remember the first criteria, it must not be denominated in the home currency of the issuer. That is the first criteria. It is in dollar. $15 million. $15 million 1963 banyak sangat ni. Ya, bukan kecil-kecil lah. Orang sekarang dia panggil kecil-kecil anak. Betul ke? Kecil-kecil anak. Bukan kecil-kecil anak kata dia. Right? So 15 juta 1963. They borrowed this amount of money designed by bankers in London. This is the issuance location in London. So it is not denominated. London tahun tu apa dia punya mata wangnya? What is the currency of London in 1963? Ah, 1963 apa dia?
Pound sterling
London.
ke madam?
Pound sterling lah. Ingat tak dulu nenek kita kan? Tak tahulah you sempat jumpa ke tidak. Saya sempat jumpa. Dia orang punya loket kan, loket ke dia orang punya benda kerongsang, brooch semua daripada emas kan. So adalah duit tu, duit emas. Duit pound dia panggil. Dia orang gunakan duit tu untuk buat rantai, orang dulu punya kaya. Buat rantai, buat kerongsang. Kerongsang baju kebaya tu. Dia orang pakai baju kebaya kan dulu. Emas bergantung-gantung. Cuba bayangkan orang sekarang pakai macam tu. Tak selamat ya, orang dulu punya berkat ya, hidup dia orang dulu bergayut-gayut emas. Tak ada orang ragut. Sekarang jangan nak kata kan kita pergi pasar ke, budak kecil pakai emas kecil halus pun kena ragut. Nampak tak berkat kita dah hilang. Alright. Okay, go back to this one here. Kita kan kadang-kadang belajar ni kena selit juga kan benda-benda yang pengalaman. Kalau you ada pengalaman, ceritalah juga, kongsi. Right? So you can see here, this is the criteria, the second criteria of Eurobond. It is not denominated in pound. It is not in pound sterling. Right? So you have this, you must have these two criteria in defining Eurobond. It will not denominated in the home currency of the issuer, and it will not be denominated in the currency of the market or the location where the bond is issued. Right? So we have that two situation. Issued at Amsterdam Airport Schiphol and paid in Luxembourg to reduce taxes. So they have that some techniques in order how to reduce the taxes. For example, bonds will be taxed, especially for the surplus unit. Remember, surplus unit will earn money. Surplus unit will earn money from that particular transaction because the deficit unit will pay them interest. So that interest will be taxed. So in terms of payment of interest, so they have choice, right? So they can choose the country that actually the tax is quite low. The government impose low tax. Boleh ke buat macam tu? Yes, can, no problem. That's why we have this globalization of financial market. You can choose where you want to have your account with and where you want the interest to be credited into your account. You can have that particular decision. You can depends on countries that charge lower taxes, right? So that you can reduce the amount of tax to be paid to the government. You know what? These rich companies, wealthy individuals, they have techniques in order to avoid themselves from paying taxes. All right. And in fact, if you're talking about bond market, Euro bonds market, some of the bonds are allowed for the surplus unit for not paying any tax. Especially if you put your money in the offshore financial center. If you put the money in the offshore financial center and that offshore financial center, you know that they will keep your information very secret, so the government won't charge you any tax. Alright, so they have some techniques on that. Saya tak pandai lah benda-benda macam tu kan. Because to me, as a citizen, for Muslim, you have to pay zakat. If you are not Muslim, so you have to pay tax. Because you are living in this country, you need to contribute to the country. Alright, so that's why I say it's good if you have wakaf institution. Alright, it's good if you have that wakaf institution. Okay, because zakat, zakat is only meant for specific groups, but wakaf is wider. Okay, so we have millions of zakat money. We have no problem in terms of that, but we need funds for wakaf because wakaf has no limitation. Zakat you have limitation. You tak boleh suka-suka duit zakat repair masjid, tak boleh. So, but we need that money, you know, in order to repair our masjid, in order to repair our classroom contohnya. Kan nanti kalau pergi kat puncak alam, you tengok macam mana classroom kita tu kan, lift pun macam tu, tak ada duit. Cuba kalau kita ada duit wakaf, easy, you know. You don't have to ask for this and that approval, you know, tunggu YB datang, whatever. No, we have wakaf, you can use that money, right? So that one is Eurobond. Can you see the difference between domestic bond, international bond, and Eurobond? Can you see the difference?
Yes, madam.
Dapatnya itu that are the differences. Okay, we are not going to calculate. Basically, there are some calculation, you know, for bond market, but we are not going to calculate unless for the fixed rate method. Yang tadi saya tunjuk itu sahaja yang kita akan kira. Yang lain tak ada, right? That one is actually Euro bonds. Okay, we have another one which is the global bonds. Okay, global bonds is a very large bond issue that will be difficult to sell in any one country or region and simultaneously sold and subsequently traded in a major market worldwide denominated in a single currency or multiple currency. So we're talking about billion of dollar in bonds, yeah. So billion of dollar, you're talking about a big amount of capital, big amount of principal to be actually provided by the surplus unit. So in order to get the money from the market, we have to actually cover a wider market. We should not only, target on a specific location. But for global bond, we target a wider location. In Eurobond, in international bond, you will specifically mention one type of currency. For international bond, we have Proton. International bond is related to the issue in Singapore and denominated in Sing dollar. That one is one single currency. If Eurobond, so that will be denominated, for example, in AUD, and the issue takes place in America, in New York. So that one is Eurobond. It will be denominated in a single currency. But for global bond, right, it can be denominated in single currency, but that will target multiple locations, or it can be also denominated in multiple currencies and target multiple locations or multiple countries, right? So the target, we are talking about the target is wider, okay? So we have, but again, most of global bonds are denominated in US dollar. The most common currencies are US dollar, Euro, and Yen. Alright, dulu ada Swiss franc, tapi Swiss franc ni sekarang dah kurang popular. Previously, it was Euro, US dollar, Yen, and Swiss franc. But latest, we have Euro, US dollar, and Japanese Yen. Sebelum ni memang ada Swiss franc in the picture, but now we have these three major currencies, yeah. So we have an example here, Argentina. Remember, Argentina is a government. Governments are allowed to issue bonds. They issue bonds in January 2018. So what is the amount of that bond? So you can total up this one here. It's about berapa ni? $9 million plus, right? $9 billion plus. Remember, it can be denominated in one currency, but target global location, or it will be denominated in multiple currencies. And again, that will be targeted worldwide, global location. That one is global bond, right? It will be sold, simultaneously, right? If it is issued, for example, in Australia, European countries, and then the United States of America, and then India, for example, or China, for example. So the issue is actually a simultaneous issue, concurrent issue. It is not by stages. It is concurrently issued. All right. So we're talking about technology nowadays. You can just press a button in order to execute the order and the transaction. So that is the good thing about technology. But you have to remember, there are also many drawbacks of technology. Scam, for example, scam cases. There are a lot of scam cases nowadays online. So just be careful, yeah. Go back to this example. 1.75 billion US dollar. The interest, remember, characteristic of bond, we have three, right? The principal, the interest, as well as the maturity. So 1.75 billion, the interest or coupon rate is 4.625% and due in 2023. Done. Dah habis dah ni, yang ni. So meaning to say, Argentina government has already paid 1.75 billion. 1.75 billion, they have already paid back to the principal. Settled 2023. We have no information. We do not know if there is some negotiation for extension. Can we extend? Negotiation. If the surplus unit say yes, if the investment banker agree, so there will be some extension, right? Number two, 4.25 billion US dollar with the coupon payment of 5.875%, due is 2028. Belum lagi habis. So meaning to say, Argentina government still serve the surplus unit with 5.875 interest out of 4.25 billion US dollar. Right? And finally, 3 billion US dollar, and the interest is 6.875%, due is 2048. 2048. Berapa lama lagi tu? Tak tahulah dunia ni ada lagi ke tidak. So that is the thing. So you just imagine those who are living in Argentina, those who are the government, right? That hold the government chair, a government seat in Argentina, just imagine. They have to keep on thinking where to get the money from in order to pay the interest. And then in the end of the maturity date, they have to pay back the principal. Tak senang nak jadi kerajaan, ya. It's not easy because you have to think about, this debt, how to pay back the debt, right? I read recently about the government in Afghanistan. They claim that they managed to pay 2 or 3 debt. Nanti saya baca balik. All right, the Afghanistan government, they reported that they have already paid, the debt made by the previous government. Saya baca tak menyeluruh. Okay, but you can read about that news. Very interesting. It's good if a country, if you discuss with economists, they will say borrowing is necessary. Without money, without capital, borrowed money, without this borrowed capital, we are unable to develop our country. That is from the perspective of economics, right? We have to borrow in order to expand. Well, I think we have a better alternative if we develop our Wakaf institution. Right? I wish our country will be freed from the debt. Right? I wish we do have these Wakaf institutions in order to reduce, all this debt. That is, you need infrastructure, and you do not have money in your account. So that's why we go for that. But just imagine if we have our Wakaf institution, we have money. Do we need to apply for a loan? Do we need to issue papers? No, we can just use the paper. But we have to make sure those who who are holding the authority in the Waqf institutions, they know that this money is not their money. Integrity is very important, right? So we need people who can be trusted in managing all these kind of institutions, right? Especially Waqf institution. Okay, ada soalan tak? Ada 3 jenis bond. We have discussed. The first one is international bond. The second one is Euro bond. And the third one is global bonds. Any question?
Sofa tak ada, madam.
Alright, okay. So dah 9.51, kita berhenti. Kita habis pukul apa? 2:30 kan? Ada lagi masa. Ya kan? Pukul 10 kita habis. Okay. So we have still the discussion about international bonds versus Euro bond. International bonds and versus Euro bond. We have these 2 categories. We have foreign bonds as well as we have Euro bonds. Just now, international bonds is also known as foreign bonds. Yeah, international bonds is also known as foreign bond. Sekejap ya, saya buat supaya you tak confused. Euro bond tadi kita panggil external bond. International bonds kita pun panggil benda ni sebagai foreign bond. Okay, so kita ada nama yang berbeza untuk dua ni. Sama juga ke atas, betulkan dalam notes tu, sila tambahkan ya, international bond. Right, international bonds or foreign bond. Right, so we have these 2 names. Jadi guna 2 nama ni kita confuse juga. Alright, foreign bond by definition. A foreign bond issue is one offered by a foreign company, ingat tadi, foreign company to the investor in a national market and denominated in that nation's currency. We have example of Proton. Proton is from Malaysia, issued bond denominated in Sing dollar, and that will be sold within that particular market, in Singaporean market. That one is the foreign bond. Alright, Euro bond by definition kita dah cerita tadi. Alright, what is Euro bond? It must fulfill 2 criteria. The first one, it won't be denominated in the currency of home currency of the issuer, and it won't be denominated in the currency of the market where the bonds is issued. All right, so we have that 2 criteria of Euro bonds or external bond, and we have foreign bond and international bond. Dia ada 2 nama. Okay. All right. For foreign bond, these are the criteria, specific criteria of foreign bond or international bond. Foreign bond issues and trading are under the supervision of local market authority. If Proton issue bonds in Singapore, so the one that will monitor or control that processes is the Security Commission of Singapore, Singapore Security Commission. If Apple issue foreign bond or international bond in Malaysia, the process will be monitored by our Security Exchange Commission, Malaysia Security Exchange Commission. They will monitor the process from step 1 until the last step, until the end, right? They will monitor all the processes. So it's very strict because foreign bond issuers or international bond issuers, they have to comply to all rules and regulation issued or designed by Security Commission of that particular country. That one is foreign bond. Okay. So we have example, bagi example lagi sekali kat sini, takut tak faham kot, tapi dah faham kan. A German firm issuing dollar denominated bonds to the US investor. German, right, issue dollar denominated targeting US market. Definitely that one is a foreign bond or international bond. And the popular names of this bond, dia ada nickname. Foreign bond dia ada nickname dia. Contoh dia Yankee bonds. Kemudian kita ada samurai bonds. We have bulldog bonds, and then we have Matilda bonds. What is Yankee bond? Yankee bonds are the foreign bonds or international bonds issued in, cuba teka negara mana? Yankee. Yankee ni berkaitan dengan negara mana? US kan? Kalau kat Malaysia ada Yankee tak Malaysia?
Tak ada.
Ada lah. Nenek-nenek kita dulu, atuk-atuk kita dia pakai seluar Yankee. Tak ingat kah? Pernah dengar tak seluar Yankee?
tahu.
Pernah dengar kan? Sekarang ada lagi tak seluar Yankee tu?
Ada.
Ada lagi? You all pakai ke?
Ada.
Pakai?
Kadang-kadang, madam.
Ada lagi sekarang. So Yankee, itu adalah Yankee bond. Yankee bond are all foreign bond issued in the States of America. Nama dia Yankee bond. Malaysia contoh dia, we have Proton issue dollar denominated bonds in the States. So that bond is known as Yankee bond. Okay. Ada lagi satu Yankee dekat Malaysia. You pernah dengar tak nenas Yankee? Tak pernah dengar?
Tak pernah.
Oh, nenas Yankee tak pernah dengar. Seluar pernah Ada tau nenas Yankee. And then kita ada MD2 ke apa benda. Kita ada benda-benda macam tu. Kita ni ada nenas tau. Saya selalu tengok kan kita ada tempat untuk tanam nenas. Which is good. Tapi bila saya tengok nenas dalam tin made in China. Kat China ni ada tempat tanam nenas ke? Do you have information? Kita tengah berbincang tentang international business sekarang ni. Is there pineapple plantation in China? Because when we talk about canned pineapple, the product are all made in China. Tak ada pun made in Malaysia. Tapi kita banyak nenas kat Malaysia ni. China ada nenas ke? Selama yang saya baca tak ada.
Ikut Google ada. Guangdong, Hainan.
Dekat mana?
Guangdong, Hainan.
Oh, okay. Maksudnya ada lah tanaman nenas kat situ?
Rasanya ada.
Okay, nanti saya cari. Saya tak pernah jumpa. Apa nama tempat tu?
Guangdong, Hainan, Guangxi dengan Yunnan.
Okay. Okay, nanti kita tengok. Okay, international business benda ni kan? Right? Pineapple is very, quite demanded product, you know. That's why China able to sell that canned pineapple. You know, they sustain the sales of canned pineapple. Dari zaman kecil sampai besar, saya dah tua ni sekarang ni. And then you can have the canned lychee from China as well. Canned cocktail fruit from China as well. So they sustain the sales, you know. Daripada saya kecil sampai saya tua. Ada. Okay. Very impressed of China. Oh, go back to here. Come back to here. And we have samurai bonds. Can you please guess which country with this name? Samurai bonds.
Japan.
Foreign bond? Yes. Foreign bond issued in Japan. It is known as samurai bond. We have issued a bond papers in the Japanese market. All right, during the period of Tun Mahathir Mohamad. When he was the prime minister, we issued a samurai bond. Right, so meaning to say we issue bond paper denominated in yen and it is marketed in the Japanese bond market. So that bond is known as samurai bond. Next one, bulldogs bond. Negara mana? Bulldogs.
UK.
Tak senonoh kan bulldogs. Banyak itu bulldogs dinamakan. Alright, bulldogs is UK. All foreign bonds issued in UK, they call it as bulldogs bond. Matilda bonds. Negara mana?
Australia.
Australia. Matilda is from Australia. Right, so those are the nickname of foreign bonds. How about euro bonds? Do you have nickname for euro bonds? No, we don't have nickname for euro bonds. Can you see the difference between these two clearly, foreign bond and euro bonds? Boleh nampak beza dia tak?
Boleh, madam.
Okay, Siti Zahara. Siti Zahara.
Ya, Madam.
Siti Zahara boleh beri satu contoh bulldog bonds. Bulldogs bonds. Satu contoh. Siti?
Ya, Madam.
Okay, one example of bulldogs bonds.
Uh,
Illustration, just an illustration.
uh, Bulldog bonds
Mhm.
traded in UK.
Okay, tak cukup tu. Who issue the bond? Denominated in what currency? Yes, Siti.
Denominated in British pound.
Who issue the bonds?
Kalau US company
US company issue.
issue bond denominated in British pounds.
All right, and that bonds will be marketed in the UK market. So that one is bulldog bonds. Thank you, Siti Zahara. Ani Sabrina. Ani Sabrina. Anis. Ani Sabrina. Are you with us? Anis. If you have difficulty due to the coverage, you can text us. All right. Oh, kena setting mic.
Hello? Dengar tak?
Okay, yes. Boleh, boleh. Anis, give us one example.
Hello, German company issue bond London denominated in British pound.
That one is what bond?
Bulldog bond.
Bulldog bond. Yankee bonds?
Ya, kejap
Yankee bonds.
Kalau Yankee bond dia macam ada spesifik apa nama spesifik interest rate dengan principal amount.
Okay. Yes, those are
nak
the criteria
contoh.
of bonds. But what is Yankee bonds? Can you illustrate? What is Yankee bonds?
Kejap. Kalau Yankee bond, bond issue by foreign company.
Okay.
In US, lepas tu dia denominated dalam US dollar.
Okay, all right. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Anis. That one is a Yankee bond. Azrizal? Azrizal? Azrizal ada?
Yes, sorry, madam. Bagi tanda. sorry.
Okay. All right. Give one example of not example, yeah, illustration of Matilda bonds. Matilda bonds.
It was dominated in Australia dollars, issued in Australia market
By?
by non-Australian users, by foreign.
Okay. All right. So that one is Matilda bonds. Thank you very much. Okay. Ada yang keliru lagi? Any confusion between foreign bonds and euro bonds? Clear? Right.
Clear,
That's,
madam.
all right. Alhamdulillah. Okay. So now, these two bonds, right? In terms of its category, right? We have euro bond, and then we have international or foreign international bonds or foreign bond. Yes. And now, in terms of the regulation, now we're talking about the regulation, whether the foreign bond is a bearer bond or registered bond, or whether the euro bond is the bearer bond or the registered bond. What's the difference between these two, bearer and registered bonds? Bearer bonds, we're talking about the indicator or the evidence of ownership is the possession of the certificate. That one is bearer bond. Evidence of the ownership is the possession of the certificate. You have the certificate with you, so you are the owner of the bonds. Right? So that one is bearer bonds. But registered bonds, right? If you are the owner of that particular bond, your name will be printed on the bond. Or if we scan, sekarang guna QR code semua kan? If we scan, your name is appeared. Alright, so that one is registered bond. While in bearer bond, the name of the owner will not be printed on the certificate. But for registered bond, the name of the owner will be printed on the certificate. Right? Ataupun sekarang kita gunakan barcode, kita guna serial number semua tu lah. But we are talking about, saya cerita tentang yang cara dulu ya. We have the name must be printed on the paper. That one is registered bond. Bearer bond, the proof of ownership is the evidence of that certificate. Which one is more secure? Bearer bond or registered bond?
Registered.
Registered bond. Ya, betul kan? Registered bond. That one is more secure. Registered bond is more secure. So when we read just now about international bond and foreign and euro bond, which one of these bonds must comply to the rules and regulation of the location where they issue the bond? Euro bond or foreign bond? The example of Proton just now. When we're talking about foreign bond or euro bond, Proton must comply to all the regulation issued by Singapore Security Commission. Foreign bond or euro bond?
Madam, can you repeat your question?
Okay, we have international bond as well as euro bond. So we discussed just now a situation about Proton issue its paper, bond paper in Singapore, and Proton issue its euro bond paper in other countries, right? In Australia, if I'm not mistaken just now. So in which location, right? Or in which type of bond I mentioned, that Proton must observe all the rules and regulation of the Security Commission of that particular country. Which type of bond? Tak perasan ya?
Registered, madam.
No, I mean, we have registered and bearer bond, right? So for registered bond, that means the issuer must always observe all the rules and regulation issued by the Security Commission of that particular location. Right? That one is registered bond. But bearer bond, there's no requirement to observe all these strict rules and regulation. So we have two types of bonds, international bonds and Euro bonds. So which one out of these two bonds is a registered bond, is under registered bond? And which one out of these two is under a bearer bond?
Eurobond is bearer bond.
And international bond?
Is registered bond.
Yes, international bond is registered bond. Foreign bond is registered bond. Euro bond is bearer bond. Just now in the illustration, I mentioned Proton, when this company issue its bond in the Singapore Singapore bonds market, Proton must observe all the rules and regulation issued by Singapore Security Commission. All right. So meaning to say one of the requirements, one of the rules is the bonds must be registered. So meaning to say the owner's name, the buyer's name of the bond must be printed on the paper. It is more secure. Okay. It is more secure for the surplus unit to purchase this registered bond or international bond, which is also known as foreign bond. Because for bearer bonds, if the bonds get stolen, all right, who own the bond, the certificate, who hold the certificate, that particular individual is the owner of the bond. So in terms of security, registered bond or international bond or foreign bond is more secured. But why people still interested to purchase bearer bond? Right? Why people still go for bearer bond? Not, I mean, there is still an option other than registered bond or foreign bond. Company can choose to go for Euro bond, which is categorized under bearer bond. So now we will read why people are still interested. The surplus unit, they're still interested to purchase bearer bond. There are reasons, right, behind it. Okay, so bullet number 2, you can read the issuer does not keep any records indicating who is the current owner. The issuer, they do not know who is the current owner of the bond. Remember, in bond, we have primary and secondary market. All right, we will look into the transaction later on. What happened in the primary market and what happened in the secondary market. Secondary market is a second-hand market. All right, the unwanted bond will be sold in the secondary market. It's like pre-loved item, kan ada kan? Jual pre-loved item. Sekarang zaman dulu dia panggil pre-loved item, sekarang dia panggil bundle je. Alright, so these are all the secondary market. Do we have secondary market for bonds? Yes, we have secondary markets for bond. Right, so secondary markets is not only for tangible product, but it is also for intangible product, bonds. Okay, this one is very attractive to surplus unit or investor due to privacy and anonymity. Right, privacy and anonymity. That means when the name of the issuer or when the name of the owner or when the name of the surplus unit is not printed on the Euro bond certificate, so there is a possibility for the holder of the bond or for the surplus unit to exempt themselves from paying taxes. So that's why they're still interested to hold Euro bond, because they do not have to pay taxes. While in the registered bond, the name of the surplus unit or the name of the investors is kept by the issuer, and it is actually printed on the paper. So every time this surplus unit or investor receive the interest or coupon payment, so the government has right to tax the money or the income from the surplus unit. That is the explanation. Tax evasion. They want to get exemption from paying taxes. This is one of the ways on how these rich companies able to escape themselves from paying taxes. Instead of purchasing registered bond, they can purchase bearer bond, which composed of euro bond. Registered bond composed of international or foreign bonds. Are we okay?
Okay, Doctor.
All right. But for the bearer bonds, you have to remember the yield, the coupon, the interest is lower. All right, because you're talking about less secured paper, less secured paper. We're talking about your name is not printed on that particular paper, so the yield is lower. All right, the yield is lower, and this is also as a result, because the yield is lower, the coupon payment is lower. So the deficit unit, they are more interested to issue Eurobond papers as compared to international bond paper or foreign bond paper. Because when the coupon rate is low, meaning to say they will reduce the cost of borrowing. Say for instance, we have Eurobond paper by Proton and international bond paper by Proton. So the same company, they can issue Eurobond paper as well as international bond paper. So for the Eurobond paper, the interest that Proton has to bear is, for instance, 3%. But for registered bond, the interest is 5%. So every year, Proton has to pay the interest, 3% and 5% to the surplus unit. All right, they have to pay to the surplus unit. So if Proton rely on Eurobond, the amount of the amount of interest that Proton has to pay is only 3%. On the other hand, if Proton depends on international bonds or foreign bond, the interest is 5%. So the cost of borrowing, 3% and 5% of the coupon rate is the cost of borrowing. Can you see? So Proton ada dua pilihan. Kalau dia nak secured security, the cost of borrowing is high. If they want less security, right? So the cost of borrowing is low. That one is under Euro bond. Are we okay? Dapat beza? Is there any question? Ada soalan? Tak ada?
Tak
No,
ada
madam.
kot, madam.
Setakat ni okey Jelas
InsyaAllah jelas.
InsyaAllah jelas. Okey. Kita check attendance sekejap. Kelas ni kelas 4C. Adam Haris?
Ada, madam.
Okay. Adlin?
Yes, madam.
Okay, Adlin. Adrina?
Yes, madam.
Okay. Ainur? Kaisha? Ainur, Kaisha? Ainur, Kaisha? Are you with us? Ainur, Kaisha tak ada Attendance ni kata ada. Amir, Haikal? Amir Haikal. Dua orang ni Anis Sabrina. Are
Hey,
you with
madam.
us? Alright. Azrizal,
Saya.
Amira. Amira
Ada,
Ali.
Doktor.
Alright. Haziq Hadif,
Ada doktor.
Iman Fatihah. Iman Fatihah. Dah take attendance ni. Lukman Hakim.
Sir.
Lukman ada Muhairul. Muhairul ada.
Hadir.
Muhammad Alif.
Ada.
Muhammad Akmal. Muhammad
Ada,
Akmal ke
Doktor.
tu?
Ya saya.
Okay. Muhammad Azri.
Saya doktor.
Muhammad Haziq. Haziq Iman.
Saya madam.
Okay. Nabiha Najwa.
Ya, madam.
Nur Alisa. Ada kan? Nur Alisa. Nur Alia.
Ya, madam.
Nur Atika.
Yes, madam.
Nur El Hashina.
Yes, Doktor.
Okay. Nur Najla.
Ada, Doktor.
Okay. Nur Nazura.
Saya, Doktor.
Okay. Nurin Alia.
Ada, doktor.
Nurul Batrisha. Nurul Batrisha. Nurul Izwani. Nurul Izwani tak datang memang tak datang. Nurul Syamimi. Nurul Syamimi. Saya akan tanya dalam physical class ni. Hari berapa bulan ni? 27 yang 3. Siti Nur Hassanizan.
Saya, Doktor.
Okay, Siti Zahara. Tadi jawab soalan saya kan? Siti
Doktor.
Zahara. Right. Umi Nadira.
Saya, Doktor.
Wan Irina.
Saya, doktor.
Wira. Wira?
Ada, Doktor. Dia kata dia keluar masuk.
Kenapa?
Line tak kuat katanya.
Allah, dekat mana dia?
Tak tahu.
Ya, line tak kuat tu dia kadang-kadang bergerak-gerak tu, line tak kuat tu. Okay. So with that, I thank you. May Allah forgive me and forgive everyone. Yeah. Saya dengar suara.
Doktor,
Ya. Okay.
saya
Alisa.
ada soalan.
Aha.
Just like for confirmation, like
Mhm.
so basically bond tu in like layman terms is like macam when for example Proton issue bond to Singapore kan, maksudnya basically Proton is making a long term debt dekat Singapore or is it
Betul.
other way around? Oh, so kita yang meminjam dari Singapore.
Betul.
Okay, faham?
Okay. Tapi kita tak pinjam daripada bank. Kita pinjam daripada syarikat ataupun kerajaan.
Oh, okay, faham?
Kita tak pinjam daripada specific bank. Kan kalau kita pergi Singapore, kita pinjam duit dekat Bank of Singapore. Bukan, itu bukan bond.
Oh, okay, faham.
Nanti kita akan tengok proses dia ya Alisa. Dia ada proses dia. Right?
Okay, thank you, madam.
Okay, alright. So, ada lagi? Ada soalan lain?
Doktor,
Yes.
tadi doktor ada panggil nama saya tapi saya tadi pakai kat laptop mic saya ada problem. So saya baru tukar dekat device.
Siapa tu? Ainur.
Ainur Kaisha.
Okay. Okay, Ainur. Alright, thank you Ainur.
Okay.
Okay. Ada soalan lain? Ada? Okay. So, setakat itu untuk hari ini insyaAllah next week we will continue still about international bond, foreign bond, national bond or foreign bond. And we also will still discuss about Euro bond or external bond. Dia ada nama-nama lain ni lah. Alright, and international bond, remember kita ada nama lain juga. Yankee bond, Bulldogs bond, Matilda bond, Samurai bond. So banyak lagi lah nama-nama yang ada. Malaysia saya tak jumpa. Agaknya nama dia apa tak? Harimau ke apa? Harimau bond. Tak jumpa lagi nama Malaysia tu. Okay. Alright, so may Allah forgive me and forgive all of you. Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas samiul alim. Let us end with tasbih kifarah and surah wal asr. Thank you very much. Take care everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Doktor.
Thank you, Doktor.
Bye.
Thank you, Doktor.
Bye. I leave. Okay, bye.